Hello everybody, Jake, your resident content cowboy here, Yeehaw, and we've got some early patch notes that are coming to the game. Patch notes for a patch that's coming to the game when it resets here very, very soon. Let's take a look at it. This comes from the most El Chico of Eviest on Twitter. ZOROARK is getting nerfs across the board to defense and special defense. Grassy Glide is also getting a reduction in its shield. Stomp is getting a cooldown increase. Basically, ZOROARK is getting some nerfs, some pretty big nerfs, honestly. And this is a Pokemon that's been dominating for a long time, so I kinda would expect something like this, but I just didn't think I'd see some ZOROARK nerfs, and here we are. I would think maybe a little bit. You know what? It is a little overtuned. Mr. Mime, are you surprised? You shouldn't be. Mr. Mime getting stat changes across the board, losing actually a big chunk of HP. I mean, if you look at it, it's level 15 HP right there, which is of course not the level you make it to in most games. You're getting a huge reduction, a 600 point reduction in HP basically. So across the board, you're seeing a couple hundred points as you're leveling up here. You know, when you get to about level 13-ish or so, which is where you reach most games, you see almost a 500 point difference in HP, so that's pretty considerable. Espeon getting some buffs right here. Espeon's auto attack is getting a buff, which is nice. It's had one of the weakest auto attacks forever, so this is kind of cool. And then Growl is getting a little bit of a buff right here. This is its early move, right? I feel like I don't use this too often. Is this the early move for Espeon? I'm blanking on what Growl is. I should have this pulled up, I guess. Hold on, let me pull up Growl. I want to look at this. Which move are we talking about here for Growl? It's just one of its basics. It's Swift and Growl. Okay, yeah, it's a sure hit move. All right, fair enough. I'm not really sure why they would buff this, but I guess they just want it to be a little more formidable early, right? So we're getting a bit of a buff here. Scyther getting a nice little buff to dual wing beat. Scyther is doing all right now in the game, but I feel like it doesn't have a super high pick rate. Maybe they're just thinking if we buff it a little bit, people will check it out. I actually think it's pretty good right now. Maybe not as useful as Scissor because it can't brawl as well, but it outputs a lot of damage. And now they're going to let dual wing beat do more damage. And then Slash is also going to do increased damage at level 11. So that's pretty interesting. ZOROARK, Shadow Claw is now getting a nerf. So if you land on the enemy, they will be thrown. Instead of being left unable to act, they'll be thrown for 0.1 second. Night Slash is also getting a nerf to its damage. Kind of needed it. It was very overpowered early. I think this Pokemon actually could probably use some endgame love, but it was very, very strong early. Sableye. Oh, thank goodness. Okay, so Sableye entering stealth used to get 20% increased movement speed, and it did not become immediately visible, but remained in stealth for 2.5 seconds. Now it only gets a 10% movement speed increase, and it remains in stealth for 1.8 seconds. Thank freaking goodness. Feint Attack getting a little bit of a buff here. Not surprised, people are not really using Feint Attack. And then Shadow Sneak getting a nice nerf. 2 seconds more of cooldown. That's very nice. Way reduced damage here. A reduction across the board. This is very fair. And Confuse Ray getting another second on its time there. This might not be enough to make it not so crazy, but at least it's something. They are pulling this Pokemon back a little bit. And I don't want them to make Sableye useless. I just want them to nerf Sableye in a reasonable way, right? And I think they're doing that here. Mamoswine getting a cooldown reduction to Ice Fang. That's nice. I think it maybe needs a little bit more there. I personally think Ice Fang maybe needs some quality of life improvements. Maybe it could catch people a little easier. It's just, I just don't think Ice Fang is there. Here's an interesting one. I saw a lot of people talking about this. Full Heal is actually getting a nerf. It lasts for less time, 1.5 seconds instead of 2, and it has a higher cooldown. You know, we're in a meta right now where everyone is running Full Heal, so I'm kind of not surprised to see something like this, but I would think maybe if you nerf Sableye enough, people would stop running Full Heal so much. All right, and then we also have some Xmas game mode items that are getting some changes here. I don't really feel like there's a ton of reason to go through a lot of these. They're just different skins of some of the Xmas game modes. Christmas, I don't know why I'm calling it Xmas. Got the teleport button. The Electro Wall Freeze Ball. These could be the new items coming in. And then we're getting a change to the catch mode. Articuno's Ice Beam is getting a increase. Zapdos's Zap Cannon and Regigigas's Hyper Beam getting an increase. But obviously, I'm most concerned with how they're nerfing and buffing some of these Pokemon. This is about what I would want to see in a patch right now. I think the game is relatively balanced, but there are a few crazy Pokemon like Sableye, MIME, things like that. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I will be streaming all of this very, very soon once this patch goes live. I'll see you all soon. Mwah. And I gave you a kiss, a wonderful kiss.